This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
A guest from 3Sixty Secure and former president of the Toronto Police Association and veteran of the police force, and really just an outspoken good guy, radio vet too, and an author. I think, do we have him lined up? Do we have Craig Bromell?
Yes, we do.
How you doing, Craig?
Good, Todd. How are you?
Dude, I'm good. I'm actually going to the Raptor game, my first one this year, so I'm excited.
Good. Excellent.
do you get to many sporting events?
Not really. I do a lot of travel, so not really. I used to a lot, but not as much in these days.
Hey, so let's get into the marijuana space. I asked, as you know, sometimes you and I just off the cuff talk and we have great conversations. Like, I want Craig's notes here. We're at some direction in this one. And one of them, you wrote 5 reasons, very BuzzFeed of you, by the way, the marijuana black market won't go away. Craig Bromell, over to you.
Well, it's almost, it has become historically and present day and probably the future, an industry on itself. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Black market in cannabis or marijuana has been around for a long time. And they're thriving right now, which is hurting a lot of legitimate businesses that are trying to make a go of it in the cannabis front. And it's pretty much because nobody's doing anything about it. It's a situation that is, again, very frustrating for a lot of people who are involved in the industry, but everybody just seems not to be that interested. And if you look at the stock market with a lot of the big companies, a lot of licensed producers, everybody's hurting, and nobody's talking about it enough. When you have an industry that's 80 to 85% illegal, and nobody's not just talking about it, nobody's doing anything about it. So we're very concerned about that. And I do blame the governments, the different governments, levels of government, and I think that something has to start happening to start controlling the black market when it comes to cannabis.
Yeah, listen, I think it's very well said and something we've talked about in the past, but I'm amazed. I'm actually really amazed that people haven't talked about this more in any industry. And you, I think you gave this great analogy. You know, you go to your street meat vendor, they're regulated, yet for some reason 80% of the black market can still exist. And I don't know if I'm telling tales out of school or anything, but I bumped into Mark Emery just the other day in the SiriusXM offices there, and everyone knows, I think, Emery for being one of the big advocates to marijuana before it was legal, been arrested many times and stuff. And he kind of jokingly, and listen, this conversation happened, so I'm not really worried about liability or anything. He said to me that some of these illegal shops that are opening up, that they just keep opening up because they actually don't fear the police, because the police come in and are just instructed to do what they do, which is a slap on the wrist, confiscate the product, confiscate maybe the cash, but not arrest the individuals where they keep allowing to go and open up back up. And I was shocked by that they don't actually arrest the illegal operations, from what I understand.
Yeah, and he's absolutely telling the truth. And it's not so much the coppers on the street that are going to enforce this are not getting any guidelines. They're very frustrated. They know it's become a joke, and the industry is not going to make it. And you also have to remember that when there's not the controls in place on the product, that you don't know what you're going to get on the black market. But again, they've legalized it to get rid of the black market, and the opposite has happened. And people are sitting around, decision makers, and it has become a joke. And nobody's doing anything about it. So at 3Sixty, we're looking upon ourselves and maybe tackling the black market. And you do a project like that, you go after the larger illegal operations. You go after the big ones. A lot of organized crime, a lot of some nasty people involved, and 3Sixty is looking upon ourselves to start looking into it and starting up our own projects to, on behalf of all of our clients and everybody out there, is trying to make a go of this and looking at taking it on ourselves.
Wow, that's really interesting. Like I mean, a stupid analogy maybe, Craig, so sorry for blowing this out of proportion like in a media angle, but like a bounty hunter kind of stuff?
Yeah, we would set up sting operations but only go after the top 2 or 3 in the country in North America, and using the media. I'm looking have some partners in the media that are interested in this. Do enforcement, turn everything over, literally hog tie them and have them tied up to the front doors of the police station and say, here you are, and here's the evidence. And I think a lot of the big investors, the mom and pa licensed producers, the smaller ones that are really being hurt by this, are interested in it. And since nobody else is, and we're the security company, we're looking at actually starting projects and sting operations and getting to the bottom of this and showing how ridiculous it actually is. Whether we start embarrassing people or not, we don't care, because there's a lot of people that invested in this, that invested their life savings thinking that it was going to be something big, and it should be. It should be 80% legal and 20% black market. So there's a lot of people that have lost out. So those are the ones that we want to protect. And I think that what we're going to find could be disturbing. We could find some legitimate people involved in the black market, organizations. I'm getting a lot of information from law enforcement, and they're applauding and said, listen, go for it. And let's see what happens. Since nobody else is going to do it, I have probably the best investigators at my disposal, ex-drug cops, ex-investigators. So let's see what happens.
Listen, man, nothing excites me more than hearing those words out of your mouth. As just really, I consider myself an entrepreneur and an investor, quite frankly, not only in your company, but a lot of the different cannabis companies. And working on the inside for some of the cannabis companies as well. It's a sector that I still believe in, and you know, your words really resonate with me. It just it is an unfair advantage in any other industry if you're investing in it, whether it's a Tesla, if someone was making wonderful revolutionary electric cars that weren't regulated and companies weren't paying taxes, and it was disrupting the Tesla market for being able to sell cars, you would be upset at that car company too, not doing it the ethical and legal way. And so that's all you got to do. It does amaze me, and to hear the sort of boldness and the concrete kind of confidence in your voice to say there might be an opportunity here for this company to do something very disruptive, but also very revealing. Listen, I'm excited if that ever comes to fruition, and a really bold move on a company if it gets there, and one that is much needed. I will say that personally. Craig Bromell is with us from 3Sixty Secure, 3sixtysecure.com, keeping everything safe. Tell us about Interpol's most wanted list. That's interesting.
So for many years now, I believe it was in 2006, when I was in one of my past lives on a radio show. I was getting tips all the time from around the world to talk about stories on the air. And because of my Rolodex with law enforcement, I got this tip once, 13 years ago. And it was a group called the Pink Panthers. And the Pink Panthers are diamond and jewel thieves that go around the world stealing. They've probably stolen about $5 billion worth of art and jewel. And they're very sophisticated. They are robberies, but they've never hurt or injured anybody during it. They do go in with guns a-blazing. There's some great, if you go on YouTube, you'll see some great robberies in Dubai where they drive 2 cars right into a mall and crash through the store and take everything out, and they're gone, and they're on a plane and gone. So these are really sophisticated cat burglars. And, you know, people say, well, it's only property. Who gives it? You know, who really cares? But in the long run, it affects all of us when it comes to insurance. Insurance policies will go up, and a robbery of $3 million of diamonds or art will affect all of us when it comes to insurance claims. So they are most wanted on Interpol. Scotland Yard has an art squad that just investigate these people. They are many of them are from the Bosnian War, Serb nationals. It's a bit of a Robin Hood story. They steal and get back to the what they'll call the villagers or their family. So when the war ended, they turned to this. And what I did find through my research was I was too sophisticated because they say there could be 200 people involved in this that are actually doing this around the world. And we quickly realized through our own investigation, we're looking at a film project on this, where it was actually one person that was running the show. And that's kind of interesting in itself. This person out of Europe, out of Switzerland. And so I had an opportunity 4 years ago to actually interview some of the Panthers in Europe. Took my cop hat on, put my producer hat on, and it was absolutely fascinating and how this goes about. So, they actually did a job in Yorkville about 7 years ago in Toronto, and it's one of the better stories I've ever come across.
What kind of value in terms of diamonds and art? I mean, we're talking multiples and multiples of millions of dollars for things.
Yeah, they've in 15 years, they have probably taken about $5 billion worth of product. Jeez. And so it's, and again, it affects all of us in the long run. But some of the jobs are quite fascinating. I could get into hours of talking about some of the jobs. And what they do a lot of time is a lot of the thefts aren't reported because they'll go in and break in and take a Picasso, but they'll replace it with a duplicate, and the person that owns the Picasso won't even know it's been stolen. So they do. So a lot of their thefts haven't even been reported yet.
Jeez,
so,
that's sophistication. That's unreal.
Yeah, they're pretty good, and so a lot of them have been arrested, are in jail, but there is a mastermind that's behind it, and that story alone is pretty incredible. So it's interesting, and I love working on stuff like that, and I am fortunate that I get this stuff sent to me to investigate and turn it into some type of project.
And in terms of technology, do people got to be careful what they post online, especially, when you're talking about the elite or people with really wealthy items and sort of showing where the location would be? And I mean, is that where a lot of the intel would come in for thefts like this?
No, they do the intel themselves. They will actually they'll watch something for months on end. Again, if you just Google the Pink Panthers, you'll see there's hundreds of stories about it out there. But again, I was fortunate enough to be handed this a while ago, and it's taken a while to do the research because most of it I didn't believe, to be honest with you. And then I have a team of investigators, and we literally found out that it's all pretty much all true. And they're really good at what they do. So, and they're very laid back group of men and women. A lot of women involved, and you don't expect them. A lot of older people. You don't expect grandma and grandpa to be jewel thieves. So, it's a incredible story.
Man, you can't even trust grandma and grandpas anymore these days, Craig. What kind of world are we living in?
It's not a good world, Todd.
Well, it's interesting having friends as criminal defense lawyers or friends in like yourself, police and history there, and a lot of us really do, and I'm putting me in a lot of us don't understand what this world is sort of how it's run and how dark it actually is, and it's a pretty dark world, and we may get caught up in sort of certain media stories that make us live vicariously through certain incidents, but there's a lot more darkness than I think is even ever reported. And like you said, it's sometimes you're very regular individuals that you would have no idea. More of a personal question for you. I mean, do you ever wish you didn't know too much?
You know what, Todd? I find it just keeps me young, just keeps my mind working, and I'm always excited about. And again, I'm a very lucky man. I've been put in a position where a lot of people will tell me things. When I ran the police union in Toronto, I gained a lot of trust with a lot of people all over the world. So I've taken advantage of it, and I'm just, I believe in. I'm not a religious man, but I believe in timing in life, whether it's your personal life or your professional life, being in the right place at the right time. So it really keeps my mind going, and it keeps me young. And I just love it. I love working on stories like that. The black market could be a great documentary. go in and find out who's behind it. You might be shocked as who's really, making a lot of money out of this. So that could turn into a nice documentary at the same time and exposing the whole situation and literally going in and embarrassing people to put up the fight to correct this problem.
What a good fight. Yeah, a lot of greed in this world, isn't there? A lot of people do a lot of things for money and greed, won't they? You wouldn't maybe necessarily think we're doing it.
No, there is a lot of greed. There's a lot of scumbags out there. A lot of ass just want to. They'll steal from their grandparents.
We just lost Craig. I'll call him back.
How did we lose Craig? That's one of the best interviews ever. Yeah. Can you?
I'll call him.
Craig Bromell from 3Sixty Secure Studios. We'll wrap up the interview in just a moment there. And it's a world, man, that you gotta. I live this way. I kind of always overlook my shoulder. I do deeper dives. Sometimes I get caught up in rabbit holes and conspiracy theories and things. But I don't ever look at anything as the way it is. You hope your family is as it is, and even then sometimes it isn't. But we got Craig back.
Yep.
Okay, we lost you there for a second, Craig.
Yeah, hey, I'm traveling, so sorry about that.
Oh, no, all good. Yeah, I think we're just talking about the greed and the scumbags out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of them, and they take advantage of the people that can't defend themselves, and it's unfortunate. Again, a lot of the decision makers aren't doing anything about it. A lot of people know about these people, Todd, and sometimes it takes organizations like 3Sixty or some other organizations I'm involved in to correct it. I have an incredible team of people that work for me, and we will help people out. Just turn it over, and it's the secrecy is everything with us, and we would rather help people out, turn it over, and assist them, and move on to the next project. So a lot of vulnerable people out there of all ages, and it's unfortunate, and you know them too. We all know them. So.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you fighting the good fight and representing such a good company, and really interesting times ahead to see where you go with the company, and really cracking down on the BS of life, okay? And I think that's what everyone wants at the end of the day, because we do want to keep things safe, and we want to be true to what messages are out there, and hopefully whether it's government officials or whether it's media members or whether it's your parents, let's try our very best. It's never going to happen. We don't live in a land of chocolate or roses and stuff, but the best we can be to keep people honest, and I think that's what your mission is. And I do appreciate always your candidness, man. These are such interesting interviews, and I look forward, if there is a movie one day about the Pink Panthers, that sounds like a fascinating movie, dude. Just can you give me a small role?
I'll give you a small role, and I'll invite you to the premiere also. No problem.
Okay, done. Well, let's go. I would like, Matt Damon. Who are we casting here? Who are we thinking?
No, well, you actually do look like one of the Panthers I met, to be honest with you. So it might be an easy fit.
Craig, thank you very much, and look forward to catching up with you down the road for 3Sixty Secure, and appreciate all your support of the program as well.
All the best, buddy.
Cheers, dude. Craig Bromell, and safe travels to him.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.